Live on YouTube.
Two?
Check 1, 2.
Set up for
Okay,
my
1.3, arithmetic sequences. We did this on Friday. Briefly, what we talked, we described what a sequence looks like and whether it's infinite goes ... and finite ends, okay? We talked about, first of all, can you tell whether a sequence is arithmetic? What do you look for? You look for a common difference. So to go from the first term to the second term, what did they do? They added 3, and that pattern continues. So yes, this is arithmetic, and the common difference is 3. Okay, now this one, they went from 2 to 4, then 4 to 8, 8 to 16. Do you have a common difference here? No, this one is not arithmetic. Okay, then we talked about the 2 kinds of equations for these arithmetic sequences. The first one is a recursive definition. In the recursive definition, you must state the first term. So, for example, if we did, let's do B. We did this on Friday. Is this one arithmetic? Yes, you're adding 6. You're adding 6, so D is 6. So if I wanted to name the next few terms in the sequence, so far I know 5 of them. If I want the 6th, 7th, and 8th one, all I have to do, I state the first term, and to get the next term in the sequence, as long as I know the previous term, I could add my common difference. So in other words, U sub n is the previous term plus 6. So what the recursive formula says is to get the next term, just take the previous term and add 6. So to get the 6th term, take the 5th term and add 6 to it. A recursive formula looks like this. You have to know the first term, and you add n, which is the term you're looking for, minus 1 times the common difference. So in these problems, they just wanted you to write a rule. So that way you can find, if you wanted the 100th term, you can just plop a 100 in here, whatever term you're looking for, you don't have to go in order. Recursive is not, it's not a good formula if you want the 100th term, because you'd have to know the 99th term to get the 100th term. You'd have to add 6 to the 99th term. I'm not going to sit there and add 6 to each term to get to the 100th term. I'm going to jump right into this formula. And so what you would do is you take your first term, which is 0 for this one, and you write n minus 1 times 6, and then clean it up. You can simplify that, okay? So that's a little bit of what we did on Friday. Then we talked about, okay, so using a formula to find the term. So if you were to find the 45th term, this is what we did on Friday, you would generate an equation like this and plug in all the important stuff, the first term, the 45th term, and the common difference. How do I know what the common difference is? Well, I've got to do a little bit of seeing how you get from 5 to 9 and 9 to 13, which is adding 4. That's D. Easy?
Yep.
Okay. Then this is this one. They give you the 5th term, which is 27. They didn't give you the first term. So what I did was I used some little bit of information here. If I know the 5th term is 27, I can plug that in. That 5, this 5 goes in here, 27 here, and they tell you D is 5. So you're going to use a little bit of algebra to find D. A sub 1 is 7, and then they want you to find the 18th term. What is the 18th term? Which is a sub 18, that's what they're asking you for. You're going to put the first term in, the 18 minus 1, and then times it by the D value. You get 92. Then this is where we kind of ran out of time, if I remember. Okay, now what happens when, and I'm going to start over right here, on this clean sheet. they give you the third term. So we don't know the first, we don't know the second, but we know the third term is 94. We don't know the fourth, we don't know the fifth, but we know the sixth term is 85. So this is a sub 3 and this is a sub 6. Okay? So if we don't have two numbers that are consecutive next to each other, but I do know it's arithmetic, do you remember how we go, since it's linear, how can we find the common difference? What can we do? Do you know, Matt?
Make it into an ordered pair.
Yeah, make it into an ordered pair. So treat this like 394 and treat this like 685. What do I do with two ordered pairs? I find M, which is going to be D. So what is 94? The difference of the Y's over the differences of the X's. What do you get? You should get -3. So now, like I did on this last problem, I'm going to use one of these. I'm going to use this one to find the first term. Because my formula looks like this. A sub n, it's the first term, plus n minus 1 times d. Well, so far, all I know is d is -3. I don't know my first term. Now, I could go backwards and figure it out. This is an easy one. I could actually do it that way. But let's use algebra, because they're not always going to be that simple. But I just want to show you how to do it. So if I do know the third term is 94, I can plug 94 in here. So the third term, n is 3, and d is -3. If you do your math and bring this over, a sub 1, that's your variable, ends up being 94. No, 94, it ends up being 100. Thank you. So now, what is your equation? They want the nth term equation. So you would write a sub n, your first term is 100, plus n minus 1 times -3. And you know you could simplify this. So how are we going to find the 45th term? You're going to do the same thing here. You're going to do 6 comma 57, 10 comma 93. Let's find M, which is D. So what is, now I like to go backwards with my lower, like, see how this is small? Both of these are smaller than this. So I'm going to do 93 minus, because I don't want to make any math errors. Do this minus this, and then 10 minus 6. Clean it up, and you get 9. You get 36 over 4, which is 9. So then which point do you like better? A6 or A10? Let's do A6. So 57 is, we don't know the first term, and we're going to use a 6 right here for n, and D is 9. So do the math, you got a 5 here. 5 times 9 is 45. Then what? You're going to subtract 45. And you're going to get a sub 1. Your first term is 12. So the equation is a sub n. The rule would be 12 n minus 1 times 9. And now, if we want the 45th term, what are you going to do? You're going to put a 45 right here. And whip out your calculator, and you should get 408. So the 45th term is,
408 or 408?
I'm sorry, 408. 408. Questions? So, now we're going to talk about summing a set of numbers in a sequence. A finite, meaning a certain number. You guys remember this formula? you could do this, you could see this way with a summation. That summation sign is the Greek letter, means add up. Add up what? What terms do I add up? You take this bottom number, that's the first term you're gonna sum up. And this is the last term you're gonna add together, okay? But you're gonna add continuously from 1 to whatever that is. So, what is K? Let's talk about what each of these represent. K is the number of terms that you're adding together. So let's say I asked you to add up let's say I give you this problem right here. How many terms am I asking you to add up? 5. What if I gave you this? How many are you adding up now? Huh? How many terms are you adding? What's the K value? It's, what is it? It's not 7. What did you get for this one? So you said 7 for this one, you subtracted this, right, to get 7? Well, when you subtract these two, you get 4. And you told me you're adding 5 terms here.
One.
You add 1. So the rule is this, you subtract these two and add 1 to that number. So yes, you are adding 5 terms here. So how do you know? You're adding the first term, the second term, the third term, the fourth term, and the fifth term. And there are 5. This one, you're adding the third term, the fourth term, the fifth term, the sixth term, 7th term, 8th term, 9th term, and the 10th term. Count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8. How do you get that number, that K value? You take these two numbers, you subtract them, and bump it up 1. That's K. Now, what goes inside here? You're going to take that number and whatever you get. So K here would be 5. So 5 over 2. And now, what are these two numbers inside? Well, the U sub 1 is the first number in the sequence that you're adding. You're going to have some kind of a rule here, a formula. You're going to plug that number in here, and that's going to generate your first term. And then you're going to take this number, and you're going to plug it into wherever you see the N, and that's going to generate your last term. By doing this math, you will get the summation of all of those numbers, okay? So, do you guys remember doing this? Okay, so let's do 3 examples. Here we go. A. And these are like that in your book. So it says find the 12th partial sum. What that means is I'm adding, right now I have 4 terms. I want the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, the 9th, the 10th, the 11th, and the 12th. I want you to add all these numbers together. Now, I don't want you to sit there and figure out what each term is and add them that way, but you could. You could do that. You're going to use the formula. And what's the formula? It's K over 2 times the first term that you're adding together plus the last term that you're adding together. Or you could call this last or K. So, what is K? How many terms am I adding together? They tell you 12, so you put a 12 here. Now, what's the first term? -8. Now, how do you find the 12th term? What is the 12th term? Am I going to sit here and figure it out? No. I'm going to here now, to get the 12th term, I'm going to do a little bit of previous work here. I'm going to write -8 plus or minus, not plus or minus, plus -8 plus 12 minus 1. And what's the D value? How are you going from -8 to -3? You're adding 5. So D is 5. So this takes 2 seconds off the record here, this is off the side here. We need the 12th term. So what do you get? 47, good job. So u sub 12 is 47, that's the number that goes here. Add these up, multiply them by 6, and that's the sum. You should get 234. Questions? Is this coming back? A little bit? Okay, good. Now, what's different about this problem versus this problem? Well, this one, they generated 4 terms. And I could do that easy with this. If I plugged a 1 in here, 7 minus 3 times 1, so to get the first term, if I put a 1 in here, I get 4. If I plug a 2 in, 2 times 3 is 6, 7 minus 6 is 1. If I plug a 3 in, and so forth, I can generate numbers in a sequence. But I don't need to do that, because this gives me everything I need. Okay, first of all, how did I go from 4 to 1? What did it do? It went down 3. So I just wanted to point this out to you. You don't need it, but that's your d value, -3. Think of slope, remember slope-intercept form? That's how that ties in. This is a linear formula, and that is gonna be your slope. That's your change from one point to the next one, down 3. But how many terms are we at? Here's our formula. K over 2, and the first term you're adding, and the kth term. So, first of all, how many terms am I adding together? Am I adding 49 or 50? 50. And how do you get the first term? You plug this number in here, we just did it, you get a 4. We need the 50th term. What are you gonna do to get that? You're gonna plug 50 in here. And you should get -143. Now, did everybody catch that? To get the top and the bottom, first and last, you plug a 1 in, and you plug a 50 in. That's where the 4 and the -143 come in. Questions? So you get 25, because 50 over 2 is 25. And then add these, you get -139. Multiply these two, and you get -3,475. So now, what's up with this problem? This is like a little different than that, but really close.
Yeah,
What?
it's 15.
There's more than one.
10 starts at 15.
It starts at 15. So this means without knowing what the first term is, do I need the first term? The first term that we're gonna add together is the 15th term. You're gonna plug a 15 in here. So the first term is 2 times n minus 8. So in other words, 2 times 15 minus 8, 30 minus 8 is 22. So the first term that we're adding together, which is the 15th term, the 15th term is 22. How do you get the 36th term? You're going to do 2 times 36 and then subtract 8. So 2 times 36 is 72. 72 minus 8 is 64. Questions? So how do you get the first term that you're adding up? You take the bottom number and plug it in, then the top number and plug it in. And now what's my formula to add them up? K over 2 times u. I'm going to add the 15th term and the 36th term. You guys remember this? What'd you guys get for K, by the way?
22.
You got it. And it's just a coincidence that these both were 22. What's your sum? Anyone have it?
946.
You got it. 946. Okay, two more, and I'm done with these. What if I generated, I said 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, go add those up to 100. How many terms am I adding together? 50, very good. So if I asked you to add the even integers from 2 to 100, there's 50 of them, where the first one is 2 and the last one is 100. You get 2,550. I thought that would be interesting for you. How do you do this one? Well, let's look at this. Here's our formula, k over 2. So we've got this pattern, and it goes from 4 to 9, 9 to 14. What are we doing to go from 4 to 9? You're adding 5, so D is 5. Out of these three variables, which do you know right away? What do you know? We know the first term, and what else?
The last term.
We know the last one. We know we're adding 4 and 99 together. How many terms are we adding together? 4 and 99. How do you figure K out? This was easy, because we could figure out that from 2 to 100, it's every other one, so it's 50 terms. But this one I'm not really sure about. So how do you find out what term this spot is without guessing? Well, what you do is you're going to go back to that formula, a sub n, the first term plus n minus 1 times d. So 99 is equal to, our first term is 4. We don't know what term that 99 is, but we'll figure it out. And we're adding 5 to each, so that's what you have. This will tell you that 99, what n value, what term that is, and how many you're actually adding then. So this is 4, 4 times 5, I'm sorry, this is, we got 5n minus 5. Add these up, you get negative 1, so add 1, you get 100. 100 equals 5n, and then divide, n is 20. So that's what k is. So 99 is the 20th term. So put a 20 here, and do the math. You should get 1,000, that's a 20, 1,030 is the sum. Okay, one story problem. A company is going to give you a $10,000 bonus for any salesperson that at the end of their first 50 weeks, what you have to do is make 10 sales in your first week, and if you can add 2 to that previous week, so in other words, in week 2 you have 12, in week 3 you have 14, and so forth. By the 50th week, we want to know how many you sold, whatever you're selling, and we also want to know how many, if you did sell this number of whatever you're selling each week, increasing by 2, what's the sum of all of them? And if it meets their criteria, they're going to give you a $10,000 bonus, whatever that is. So that $10,000 is really not important at this point. They just want to know, if this pattern continues, what would be the number of units that were sold on week 50? And then what's the sum of all of what we sold up to week 50? So what's our first step? We got to find U50. And we need it to find the sum anyway. So what is U50 is going to be the first term, A or U. The pre-calc book uses U. So 10 plus 50 minus 1, and then D is 2. You know that, right? So on the 50th week, how many computers or widgets did you sell? How many? 108. You are correct. So how do you add these up? How many are you adding up? 50. So 50 over 2, and the first is 10, and the last is 108. So 2,950 units. So if this company says if you sell 2,950 over the next 50 weeks, then you get a $10,000 bonus. How fun is that?
So fun. Wanna do 750?
Okay, so now, everybody should be able to finish. Hi, sir.
Nope.
Everyone should be able to, for homework tonight, finish 1 through 43. And when you're done, I'm gonna start this 1.6. Okay, 1.6 is geometric sequence, I have the notes. But this will be on YouTube tonight. I will show you how to do all 43 of these, or not 43, but 1 through 43 odd will be on YouTube tonight, okay? So now, I'm gonna give you a second to get your stuff clear, and I'm gonna give you 1.6 notes. We have to start, we're kinda behind.
Wait a minute, YouTube, tonight, home,
YouTube,
Dad,
that's our time.
it's homework time.
Teaching time.
It's video.
It's
This is your time, you gotta get down in an hour, this is your time, this is it, period. Who's Mr. Green?
Mr.
He
Green.
won't be doing no homework.
Uh-oh,
He's
why?
gonna poke you. No, I'm just kidding, I don't
Are you in trouble? Okay.
know. You're probably back.
All right, I am not gonna do all of this, but we're gonna do a chunk of it because, we'll make tomorrow a little easier, lighter. But we can start this. They talk about patterns. I think there's 6 there, I just guessed.
Alright.
And it should be review, this is nothing that's too crazy. Hopefully it's coming back to you guys. Is it coming back a little bit?
Little bit. Not too much.
Okay, so, what if it's not adding the same number or subtracting, if it's not arithmetic? It could be geometric. Could you multiply a number or divide a number by the next one, that one, to get the next one? You know what I'm saying? So look at this one, A. How do you go from 3 to 9, and from 9 to 27, and from 27 to 81? Are you adding the same number? No. This is going up very fast. What are you doing? You're multiplying each term by 3. So this one is an example of geometric. If it's geometric, we don't have a D value, we have an R value, and R is 3. So now, do you remember how to find the recursive formula for this? The recursive formula is you state the first term, which is 3, and any term you want to find, whoops, A sub n is equal to A sub n minus 1 plus, what is your common ratio, or I should say constant ratio? How do you go from 3 to 9, 9 to 27?
3.
You're multiplying by 3. So you take the previous term and you multiply it by 3. So what do you know about this formula, the recursive? It's good for if you want the 4th, the 5th, the 6th term. All you have to do is multiply 81 by 3, you get 243, then you do 243 times 3, you get the next term, and so forth. Well, what's the explicit formula? Do you guys remember it? The explicit formula is you take the what? First term, and you multiply it by r to the n minus 1. The first term is 3, and the ratio is 3 in n minus 1. What's so nice about this formula is you could figure out the 50th term. You plug a 50 here, 50 minus 1, so you're going to take 3, the ratio, raise it to the 49th power, and multiply that by 3. You guys remember this? Oh, see, so really quick. How about B? Is B, they just want to know, like your homework for 1.6 in 1 through 8, can you pick out if it's this, this, and if it's not one of these, it's neither. So what would you say B is? What is it?
Geometric.
Geometric. Because to go from 5/2 to 5/4, you're multiplying it by what? 1/2. So if it's geometric, how do you write the recursive formula? You state the first term, and if you want to find a term, if you know the previous term, and you multiply it by the r value, which is 1/2, you can find the next term, and the next one, and the next one. But the explicit formula, you have to know the first term, and you multiply it by the r value to the n minus 1. So 5/2 times 1/2 to the n minus 1. Okay, and letter C, what would you say this is? Neither. It's neither. It's a sad. Okay, so I already told you the two formulas. Recursive, you have to state an initial, what is your first term? And then to find the next term in the sequence, you do r times the previous term, that's that. Explicit, you take the first term and you multiply it by r to the n minus 1 power. Okay, so how do you do? We're just going to do these 3 problems and I'm done. So I want the 6th term. What do? I know the first term, and I know the next term, and the third. I could actually figure out what r is and get to the 6th term very easily. How did they go from 2 to negative 2/5? You guys are good, negative 1/5. Does anyone not know how they did that? You take the second term and divide it by the first. And let's double check. What's negative 2/5 times negative 1/5?
2/5.
Good, it worked. Now, could you figure out the the third term? What would you do? What do you get?
-2.
And that's 125. Okay, how do you find the 4th term? You take negative 2 over 125, and we're going to multiply this by negative 1/5. What do you get? You're going to get 2 over 625. And then how do you find the 6th term? You're going to take 2 over 625, and you're going to multiply it by negative 1 over 5. Anyone have an answer? So basically, 625 times 5 is 3125. So the answer is 2 over 3,125. Now, if you didn't like doing it like that, you would use, it goes, nope, that one's going to be, yeah, this one's a negative. Yep, that's this one. This is the 6th term. The signs are alternating. Now, if you wanted to use the formula, it looks like this. You got to know the first term, which is 2. You got to know the r value, which we know. And you're going to do 6 minus 1. and you'll get the same answer, -2 over 3,125. Okay, next. Can you tell me the 10th term? What are they doing to go from 4 to 12?
Multiplying it by 3.
So R is 3, right? So let's go right into the geometric explicit formula. What does it say? First term times R to the n minus 1. What is the first term? 4. What's the R value? 3, and you're going to do 10 minus 1, which is 9. Anyone have an answer? Anyone have it? 78,000?
Yeah.
Very good. And the last problem, okay? This is a doozy here. What do you do when you don't know the two middle terms and they're not in a row? There's nothing consecutive. There's nothing consecutive. I want to show you no coordinates this time. No coordinates. I want you to stare at this formula for a second. What do you notice about these two subscripts and this? They're the same, but they're the difference. So this is the first term, and this is the fourth term. Okay, that's the first term and that's the fourth term. So if I put the fourth term here, if I say the fourth term and the first term, what should R be here? If you subtracted these two to get that, you're gonna get a 3 right here. Yep. So now we're gonna plug in, what is the fourth term? What's the first term? We don't know what R is. That's what we need to find out. So how are you gonna get R?
I'm going to do it by itself.
Divide by 2. Then how do you solve this? Take the cube root of both sides, and that's why you need to have a C or above in algebra 2 to do this stuff. I'm not reviewing it. It's -3. R is -3. So let's say that to get to the second term, all you have to do is multiply the first term by -3. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
So what's this term? And what's this? Does it fit? Does it match? If I multiply that, you're done. Okay, so everyone understand what's expected of them tonight? To hammer out 1.3, 1 through 43, and if you can start 1-6, 1 through 21 on, you should be able to do those. Tomorrow we'll do the summation of geometric. And what?
This audio is soccer.
This audio is like 31%.
It's what?
It's my